Hey guys, happy Saturday. Pastor P here coming at you, looking at Genesis 3 today. And I'm just going to dive right in. Excited about this because on the third day, all right? Go to Genesis 1 and verse 9. It says, and God said, see, God's still that creative voice, creative force, speaking things into existence. It says, let the water under the sky be gathered to one place, and let dry ground appear. And guess what? It was so. God spoke it, it happened. God called the dry ground land. Look at God naming stuff. Called the dry ground land. And the gathered waters he called seas. And God saw that it was good. And then God said, let the land, let that dry ground I just brought up out of that water, let it produce vegetation. Let it produce some life-giving things. Let it produce something. I love that. Seed-bearing plants and trees on the land that bear fruit with seed in it, according to their various kinds. And it was so. And it says the land produced vegetation, plants bearing seed according to their kind, and trees bearing fruit with seed in it according to their kind. And look at this. God saw that it was good. And there was evening and there was morning, the third day. And on the third day. See, we get excited about the third day, or I get excited about the third day, because that's the proclamation, the prophetic message of things to come. And on the third day, life comes forth. Okay, on the third day, there's a little more separation. There's a little bit more dividing up of things. We've been thinking on things. Okay, if we're putting this to our emotions and our feelings and our thoughts and our bodies, we've been processing on things. And now it's time, let's get down to some of this detailed work. So on the waters that were separated below, let's cause dry land to come up out of those waters. And on that dry land, let's bring forth vegetation. Okay, I think at this point, we might have just kind of touched on this just a little bit, but there's a difference between creating something and making something. When we make something, we pull some ingredients from here and there and everywhere and kind of toss it together. Okay? When you make something, when you create something, you're taking nothingness and making it somethingness. Okay? And so that's a powerful place to be in. If you're in that place where I don't have anything, God, I'm just going to trust you. I don't have this, that, or the other. I don't have anybody. I don't have anything. You have nothing. But out of that nothing, God can bring something, which is powerful. See, God did this little separation with the water. Then out of this water comes dry land. Okay? And God is setting boundaries and borders. We need to pay attention there. God, I feel a lesson coming on as God sets the boundaries of the land and the sea. Okay? He begins naming things. He begins to bring further order and to bring it in such detail. Like, this is where this begins and this is where this stops. Okay? It's important for us to set boundaries. Things that we've already dealt with in the past, leave it in the past. Things that we're dealing with now, don't get it confused with the future. We're not carrying some of this stuff into the future, okay? We're setting a boundary, okay? And sometimes that means people, things, thoughts, all that. Taking thoughts captive, setting a boundary in our mind not to dwell on this, that, or the other again. Setting boundaries between those that influence the negativity or the burden or the doubt or the fear, setting a boundary with that, okay? That it might not be crossed over, okay? Because that's where land is and this is where sea is. There's a boundary, okay? And so see how all this is kind of coming together. But on the third day, I get so excited about the third day. Do you know that it was on the third day? Check this out. Check this out. And I know that some of you know this, some of you gonna give it further study. On the third day, in Exodus 19, it says here, on the morning of the third day, there was thunder and lightning and a thick cloud over the mountain and a very loud trumpet blast. Everyone in the camp trembled, and Moses led the people out of the camp to meet with God, and they stood at the foot of the mountain. If you read Exodus 19 and 20, we didn't have to wait till Acts 2 to get the first Pentecost. This is God speaking in tongues of fire, with fire and thunder and trembling. On the third day, God was ready to speak to the people, okay? Because it was a day of life. God was ready to do some stuff. And then we find in Esther 5, it was on the third day. Esther had just proclaimed that she's ready to do whatever she needs to do to get her breakthrough, right? Crisis creates breakthrough. She's ready. And she said, if I perish, I perish. Okay? But here's the kicker. On the third day, she put the robe on. On the third day, she stepped into her purpose. Esther 5, read it for yourself. On the third day, Esther put on her royal robes and stood in the inner court of the palace in front of the king's hall. It was on the third day, y'all. And then we keep on, it just keeps getting better and better. In Hosea, in chapter 6, the prophet tells us, come, let us return to the Lord. Remember, we spent a little season, a few days on that, about coming back, bringing ourselves back from all the places that we've ever been, right? Where we didn't set boundaries or we didn't work through this or that or the other. We're coming back. Come, let us return to the Lord. He has torn us to pieces. Life has torn us to pieces, but God will heal us. God has injured us, but God will bind up our wounds. After 2 days, he will revive us. On the third day, he will restore us. I love this particular passage, okay? We've ripped apart, revived, and restored. Okay, if anybody needs to use that for Easter sermon for the third day, there you go. Ripped, revived, and restored. But it doesn't stop there. This particular passage goes on to speak about not just having life, but having that power-infused life. And then we get to the gospel message, right? And we're told that on the third day, why do you look for the living among the dead? Why do you look for the living among the dead? Why do we keep going back to the dead places of us? Okay, come on. And looking for something to life. Why not look at the life places? God brought life out of the water, created the land, set the borders up for the sea on the third day. And then in that place that he brought forth land, he brought forth vegetation, he brought forth seeds, so that the vegetation would be an ongoing process, okay, of growth and possibility. He brought forth fruit-bearing trees on the third day. The third day is a powerful day. It's something to pay attention to. I feel like we're in our third day, okay, because we've laid a lot of stuff to rest. Come on now. We have laid a lot of stuff to rest, and we've let it just be there in that space. And now it rests with us to create, make out of nothingness, the somethingness, create, speak that creative force, speak those things that you desire to come into being. Speak to the mountain, speak to it. Speak to it, whatever it is that you desire to begin to call it forth. Look at God calling forth out of the water. Come on, land. And the land appears. It is so. Come on, vegetation, here it is. Come on, boundary, here it is. Okay, my encouragement to you today is to speak some stuff. Okay, on this third day, we're encouraged to speak some stuff, to begin to be bold in our faith. Okay? And I know you can do it. I can know you can. We speak all kinds of other stuff. Come on. Speak faith. All right? Know tonight that I love you, and I'm just speaking that. I just put that out there because it is the truth. Okay? It is the truth. And I'm believing that God is doing something in your life and in your heart right now. And I want to encourage you, begin to speak to that. Speak the details to that. Have a wonderful evening. I'll see you again tomorrow. Good night now.